Okay, this video is to show how the windows that I inspected on the homes are installed, just to clarify what the objection is with the installation. So on both homes the Tyvek was installed before the windows were installed, and then the next step the installer took was to cut a rectangular opening in the Tyvek to match the window opening. When they did this, they did not cut the Tyvek in an X and wrap it inside. They just cut it clean with the edges of the sheathing. So as you see here, typically the typical install you're going to cut, if you're doing the Tyvek first, you're going to cut an X. You're going to extend that X above the window and make a flap up here in the Tyvek, and then you'd pull that flap up, do your flashing in a shingle-like manner, and pull the flap back down over the top of the window so as to prevent moisture intrusion into the structure if any moisture were to accumulate on the Tyvek or behind the Tyvek. So, like I said, that didn't happen, and what did happen was this rectangle was cut. Next thing that happened was pan flashing was applied, and then the window was brought in. There does not appear to be any sealant whatsoever. I didn't see any bleed through in any of the perforations for nails on the nail fin. I also felt around on some of the larger gaps, and there's no. Usually you'd feel a little bit of squeeze out there where the sealant has pushed inward, and there was nothing there. So I'm under the impression that there's no sealant. I could, however, be wrong if they were incredibly neat with it in a thin bead, but I don't think I am. Anyhow, the next order of installation was that the head flashing was applied, which is incorrect for several reasons. Number one, when you do it this way without the jam flashing being in place, the head flashing and the jam flashing are not applied in a shingle-like manner, which is specifically specified in the code. Number two, the Tyvek and the head flashing are not in a shingle-like manner, which is probably even more important, because now what we have is a piece of Tyvek that is sealed to the nail fin, so any moisture that were to accumulate behind this Tyvek is now going to come down to the head of the window behind this flashing and enter the structure. And so, just to reiterate, the way this is supposed to be done when Tyvek is installed before the window is you're supposed to cut a V right there and right there. Supposed to cut kind of a V there. Flip that up, flash the head, and then bring it back down and tape it. And that is shown on the Tyvek installation instructions. Okay, so here it is. This is where, this shows how the Tyvek should be installed. You can see it pretty clearly on this graphic where they've got the head flashing and the jam flashing in a shingle-like manner, and then the Tyvek is also in a shingle-like manner on top of that head flashing. And since the Tyvek on these homes was installed before the windows, it would only seem logical that we would be following installation instructions for Tyvek installed before the windows. The instructions that were provided most recently by Richmond's Tyvek rep are, I believe, these right here. And they again show now that you would have no Tyvek on the wall, you would have an apron and a pan flashing installed before the window. That is not present. You would then apply sealant to the sheathing, which I do not believe is present. I know it's not applied to the sheathing because the Tyvek goes behind the window, so if there is anything there, it's applied to the Tyvek. They then show that the head flashing and the jam flashing should be sealed to the sheathing, and then from that point forward, they show a pretty detailed installation here, how you cut the flaps and make sure that that apron is brought out on top of the Tyvek so as to have everything in a shingle-like manner. So that's the issue. That's why the owners believe that their windows are installed improperly. One thing I don't believe I got to also is the fact that the jam flashing on their home was installed as I have it in the graphic here. It did not extend down far enough initially, And when it was extended in a way that was not a shingle-like manner. And that is what code specifies as a shingle-like manner. So what should have happened is, ideally, the entire piece of jam flashing, ideally everything would be removed and reflashed because it's not correct. But if you're going to extend it, ideally you would pull that flashing up and tuck a piece underneath it. Okay, so now I'm on the City of Erie's building department webpage here, and so if you go to the building division webpage, scroll down, you can find a link to IRC 2015, and then if you go to IRC 2015, you want to go to chapter 7. That's where window flashing is covered. We're going to now find that section, which is R703.4, and it clearly states that flashing shall be applied in a shingle fashion in a manner to prevent entry of water into the wall cavity or penetration of water into the building structure framing components. So the current installation is clearly not code compliant. I just wanted to go ahead and reference this code and point this out to make sure that it was clear.